premature optimization of tracks, for a lot of reasons, can be as dangerous as not recording a good track in the first place. So we're going to take a quick look at this. We're not going to be mixing, we're not going to be messing with the mix all that much, except for pulling down some things so that they don't clip and all that great stuff. But let's take a look at some of the issues that can arise even on fairly simple tracks. So here we can see in the waveforms that most of the items here they're hitting pretty close. And when it is this close, you generally want to use your ear to determine if it's close enough or if something needs to be re-recorded. There are other times when you can see things are obviously incorrect, and if you have the opportunity to re-record those, that's extremely valuable. But sometimes you don't have the opportunity, and to work on alignment, I'm going to show you a quick thing that I tend to do just to make sure that things will align properly without having to re-record a track. Let's say if somebody doesn't have time or if it's just not feasible to re-record. So let's listen to this right here and keep an eye on this section right here. Okay, so you heard that this particular part, lead 3 1B, it's coming in too early right here. Okay, ideally you want to re-record that, but if you don't have the opportunity to do that, at least not, there are a lot of this is going to be Audacity specific, but these sort of things exist in basically any DAW or multi-track. So we take this particular section, which has little to no sound in it. We make sure that in Audacity you hit C, so it conforms, the selection conforms to 0 points on either side of the waveform. And then what we do is go into change tempo. We never use change tempo to actually change the tempo of music. It sounds awful. That is always a non-starter. You never ever do that. What you can use it for is to change the period in between notes that aren't being played so that they align better. It gets tricky for some circumstances, but in this case it's fairly straightforward. So length in seconds, I generally try not to go more than like a 4 millisecond increase, sometimes 6 or 8, but you try to keep it as small as possible. So we're going to increase the silent time on this particular line from 0.08 to 0.12. And in this case, we will see that it moves this waveform to the right almost as much as we want. And let's take a listen and see if that's good enough. Sometimes even look in the waveform, it may look good enough. Sometimes it just doesn't work. But your ears are the proof of, they are the ultimate arbiter. So that's pretty good. I still want to add just a little bit more, so I'm going to go over my rule of 0.04. We're going to add, again, make sure that's zeroed out. We're going to add just a touch more, so the tempo is going to be changed from that to 16. And we'll get a little bit closer on the waveforms here in just a moment and see what they look like. Yeah, that's way, way, way too much. So we will take that back and just move from this to, yeah, sorry, I was doing some math kind of in a wonky way. 0.09 to 0.11. Again, your ears are always key. Let's zoom in on this. And this particular waveform, again, we don't want to be too overly prescriptive. In fact, see when I zeroed that out, it tried to move the selection a bit too far. That's not something we want. And we're going to pull this in just a tiny bit. actually just by 0. No, that didn't quite work. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm doing this all live. Okay, so we pulled that one in. We have what looks like good waveforms up and down, but the most important part is to see what it sounds like, or to hear what it sounds like. That's better right there. Let's hear a little bit larger sample. Yeah, so we now have, again, it's always better to re-record when you have the opportunity, but sometimes you just don't have the opportunity. So let's take a listen here. Now they line up almost perfectly. So that's something to keep in mind. Don't use change tempo or anything like that, or change pitch, or anything along those lines to actually correct structural problems in the things that have been recorded, but use them to nudge things so that they fit in that they fit in with alignment better, especially with tempo. As I mentioned previously, it is important to not be too prescriptive on items if you have a chance to change it in other ways. But again, these examples, I'm going to show some ways to use some of the DAW and multi-track recording capabilities so that hopefully it makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, so this our first lead, the waveforms look pretty good. This one is a little troubling because it looks like it's clipping there. So sometimes that is the case. Sometimes the waveform is correct. Other times it is an exaggeration. It doesn't really mean what it says that it's meaning. For example, if we go and look at it more closely, what looked like clipping isn't really clipping here for this particular recording. But if you add it to other waveforms at the same time, then yeah, you're going to experience clipping. So one of the things that we can do is using something like shaping the waveform. So in Audacity, I'm going to use this to create a few peaks and troughs, so that we can pull that down just a little bit, but also when it gets down here a little bit, then we will bring it back up, because what we were concerned about is this part right here. And let's see how this sounds now that we have that shaped. We can see that it no longer looks like it's clipping, but again, everything should be tested with your ears, not your eyes. And now it doesn't sound like it's clipping. Let's take it out even a little bit farther. So let's just go from the very beginning of the leads. Yeah, there's still a few things down here that I'm going to address. This looks like it's clipping, and I think we actually, let's just do that right now. This can be pulled back just a scooch. So again, using some of the Audacity tools, we don't want that to be all the way down there. We don't want this to be too egregious. We are just looking to contour, and then again bring it back up. There's still some distortion, but a lot of that's it comes from the electric piano and the way that the electric piano sounds. I still may take a little bit of this down just a tiny bit, and a little bit of this down just a tiny bit. Distortion, like with electric guitars and Wurlitzers and all sorts of instruments, it's an extremely effective sonic tool, as long as it's used appropriately and it doesn't distract from the overall overall melody and theme. So this is getting pretty close without being too distracting. Yeah, that growl is coming from the Wurlitzer and electric piano. I personally love it, but I'm probably going to dial that back a little bit because there are going to be more instruments that are added to this mix. This is one measure of 64 measures that we go through while working on composing and arranging songs like this. So I hope you enjoy it. There's more to come. Thanks.